It makes me sad that, the audience has asked, some people have tweeted me, where's Brew this week? And, I don't want to reveal Brew's personal details, but I will. I mean, he was in London trying to arbitrate this meeting, hoping that Tsai and Katie could come together. And, it's not, you say it's not true. I say it is true. Brew brokered this meeting like an old mafia don, thinking it could all come together. But unfortunately, the families are still warring. So here's what I've got to say, Antoine. I think Kevin Durant managed to checkmate a billionaire. I think Kevin Durant doing this, while I understand it might be unpopular and I understand it's going to cause a lot of hurt feelings, most notably from Steve Nash, who was his handpicked coach, who Katie, right after the season, said he was dealt a ridiculously tough hand. What do you want from Steve? He might have torched that relationship. But Katie has now guaranteed that he will be traded. And that's what he wants. Here's why I say, Antoine, I think he checkmated him. If Kevin Durant actually wanted Steve Nash and Sean Marks fired in order to come back to the Nets, that would have been the opening salvo back in July when he had Rich Kleiman meet with Joe Tsai. That was not it. It was simply trade me. But now we are 6 weeks removed from that, Antoine, and he has not been traded, and there are rumblings that, hey, they might just try to run it back. And now Kevin Durant, by making this demand and then very fortuitously having that demand instantly leaked, has guaranteed that keeping him is untenable. Joe Tsai is not going to fire the GM and the head coach because of this, and I don't think you can ask the GM and the head coach, particularly Steve Nash, to work with Kevin Durant, whoever the whole world now knows wanted them fired as a prerequisite of him coming back. So now I do think what he wanted, which is getting traded, he has guaranteed that it's going to happen. It had to get a little ugly, and maybe it'll get uglier. But Antoine, I'm of the belief that Kevin Durant did this strategically, knowing that Nash and Marks would not be fired, but instead he would get traded because of it.
Well, Nick, I look at it a little different. One, I was surprised that he wanted out, and this was the reason why he wanted out. I've been on Chris's side a little bit. I'm going to defend Chris a little bit. I thought KD should try to run it back with Brooklyn. And then obviously after his reports yesterday, I see it's not going to be possible. So, but I look at it from a player's point of view. When you're a player, you get a coach and a GM that seems to want to do whatever it takes to make you happy contractually and to do whatever you can on the court. I don't see how you're upset with them or they're the reason why you want to get traded. So I'm baffled by KD saying that he wanted Steve and Sean Marks out because it seems like those two guys were behind KD 110%. And they've made some moves to try to really make this team better. It's unfortunate the James Harden move did not work. That's a big-time trade, and adding a guy like that, you would think it'll be able to work. Now, whether that was Steve Nash's fault, that he couldn't make that work offensively or figure out the way that can work. And then obviously adding Kyrie in the beginning was a great move. Now, the only thing I can see up top that's a little shaky is the Ben Simmons situation because because Ben Simmons got traded there and you didn't know if Ben Simmons was going to play or not, and then obviously he ended up not playing and being a big saga too. So besides that, I think Sean Marks has done a terrific job of trying to build this team around KD, adding pieces. And then Steve Nash, a guy that gives you the offense, and you can do what you want on the offensive end. I don't know why those two guys are the main guys that's forcing you and want you out. I believe that he knows that they were going to bring him back. And I think he's at a point where he knows he doesn't want to come back. And that's why he made the stance yesterday. I do believe that. I think he knew they were going to try to bring him into training camp, see if they can make this work. And he's making a stance right now to make sure that they do not do that.
Okay. So the only thing that has changed is that Kevin Durant has made an ultimatum. Now, allegedly, supposedly, Nick, Joe Tsai has to make a move on that ultimatum. But I don't believe that ultimatum is real. If Joe Tsai said, you know what? We're going to keep Sean Marks. We're going to keep Steve Nash. And the deals for you still don't really make sense for us. So now what are you going to do? Because I think you think it's a checkmate. I don't. I think it's a bluff because I still believe that Kevin Durant is not wired to sit out the year. So suppose Joe Tsai does nothing. Suppose Joe Tsai tells Sean Marks to say, you know what, keep looking for trades, see what we can get for KD, but if it's not in the best interest of the team, let's go forward. Do you think Kevin Durant doesn't show up? Do you think now that Kevin Durant will say, I'm gonna stay at my house. I'm not coming to camp. I'm not gonna play this year.
I think it's untenable to ask Steve Nash to coach Kevin Durant. I think that if it was in, Variety, that I said either fire Wilds or trade me to Fox Bet to become their betting analyst. I want out of here. And they said, no, we're not trading you. Do the show with Wilds every day. You'd be like, hold on a second. That's not right. That is not and I don't think you can ask Steve Nash to have this be public and then somehow have control of a team, somehow coach a team. And I think Durant knows that. And again, I don't want to become a Durant apologist here, but I don't blame him for not wanting to play for Steve Nash. Steve Nash was in charge of vibes. The vibes were terrible. Someone was in charge of defense. The defense was terrible. Theoretically, Steve Nash should be an offensive mastermind. They don't run an offense. It's KD, go get a shot. Like the iconic image of the Nash-Durant partnership is after Game 5 against Milwaukee 2 years ago, Nash bear-hugging Kevin Durant, thanking him for bailing them out. So I don't blame Kevin Durant for looking around and saying, yeah, Boston, you know what they were running? Sets and plays. You know what we were running? Nothing. And so Antoine, tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but it was at some point you crossed the Rubicon of, is this relationship tenable? And if you publicly say, I want to be traded because I don't want to work for Sean Marks and I don't want to work with Steve Nash, the idea that Joe Tsai is going to tell Sean Marks and Steve Nash, fellas, I have enough belief in you that I won't fire you, but not enough to where I'm going to show you the respect and dignity of moving on from a guy who has let the entire world know he thinks you're unqualified. And so I do think this trade gets done because of that.
No, I think you got to add to this, and we got to stop sugarcoating it. KD's upset that Kyrie Irving did not get a long-term deal. I think that's what you get upset at with Sean Marks. And I'm not saying it's solely Sean Marks' decision to sign it, yet the owners have to sign off on it, and the organization has to be behind it. But I think it brings light to that when you think about it, because Sean Marks hasn't done anything besides that situation to really grant it where you would want him to lose his job. That's the usual request.
I
you want both of these guys gone. No, I mean, the Ben Simmons situation, adding Ben Simmons, and we all thought Ben was going to play 2 weeks into getting traded to the Nets, and it just didn't happen. So I think that was something that they thought that Ben was going to play. But if you really think about it, you go into this summer, they didn't give Kevin Irving a commitment to long term. And if I'm KD, I'm looking at, I got 4 years left. I want to play with this guy, and you don't get it done. That brings up a huge argument to say, hey, the front office is not behind what we're trying to do. X's and O's, I think I'm a little different than you. I think anytime as you're a player and the offense is catered around you and everything, you should be happy. I know Steve Nash is a young coach, and you got to give him a chance too. But you're one of the great. He's not doing anything, taking the ball out your hand. He's not made you the first option on the offensive end. He's giving you everything offensively so you can be a great player. So I don't know how you're upset with Steve unless you just realize he just can't get it done in X's and O's. When obviously we're not in the locker room to know what's his shortcomings as a coach.
Listen, this team's been full of half measures the entire time. They handed the franchise over to KD and Kyrie, and then they got squeamish about it this season, tried to pull some of it back, and that doesn't work. You can't fire Atkinson, hire Nash, sign DeAndre Jordan, trade for James Harden, and then be like, Kyrie, you're not allowed to play at all. Okay, you can play some of the games. And then in your postseason press conference, talk about, that we need to reestablish a culture. That is a direct shot at KD and Kyrie, and then not pay Kyrie. Whether those are smart decisions or not, that ended up leading us down to this road. The only thing I don't understand is why I'm seemingly one of the only media members that's happy we're going down this road. Fellas, we are going to get Kevin Durant on the Boston Celtics, Kyrie Irving on the Los Angeles Lakers, and we're going to get Lakers Celtics, KD LeBron for banner 18 in the finals. Everybody wins.
That would be.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.